In this podcast episode, Dr. Debra Lieberman explores the evolutionary and psychological reasons behind incest avoidance in humans and animals. The conversation delves into how kin recognition develops, the cues involved, and the implications for sexual aversion, altruism, and social behavior. The discussion also touches on surprising natural experiments, cultural influences, and the psychological mechanics of morality and disgust related to incest. Later, the episode shifts focus to the evolutionary functions of crying, its social signaling, sex differences in emotional expression, and the complex interplay between tears, social value, and emotional regulation. Dr. Lieberman explains that humans have evolved a natural inbreeding avoidance system which relies on kinship cues primarily experienced during childhood. These cues help individuals implicitly estimate genetic relatedness, leading not only to sexual aversion toward close relatives, but also to altruistic behavior as explained by Hamilton's theory of inclusive fitness. The system is designed to reduce the risks associated with inbreeding, such as higher mutation loads and less healthy offspring, while also reinforcing cooperative tendencies toward genetically similar individuals. Without language, animals rely on environmental and social cues to recognize relatives, including membership in the same litter, shared scent, imprinting on the mother, or co-residence in a territory. Humans, while equipped with language, still depend heavily on similar developmental cues. For example, infants recognize their mother as the female who breastfeeds and cares for them. Siblings are identified by observing shared maternal investment, especially through breastfeeding, which strongly marks individuals as kin regardless of actual genetic relatedness. The phenomenon known as the Westermark effect describes how children raised together develop sexual aversion toward each other. This effect hinges largely on the duration of early childhood co-residence under the same roof, with shared parental investment. The longer this cohabitation during the dependency period, the stronger the innate sexual aversion. This principle helps explain why familial relationships are defined less by genetic relatedness per se, and more by early social bonds and caregiving patterns. Dr. Lieberman discusses a notable case from Taiwan involving minor marriage, where newborn girls were adopted and raised with future husbands as siblings, sometimes even breastfed by the adoptive mother. These adopted siblings, despite lacking genetic ties, developed similar sexual aversion due to shared maternal cues. However, cultural pressure still led some of these pairs to marry, often resulting in unstable unions characterized by higher divorce and infidelity rates. This natural experiment highlights the interplay between evolved mechanisms and cultural norms. While maternal care and co-residence are powerful signals for kin recognition, the system is not infallible. For example, paternal recognition is less certain and may depend on cues like investment by a particular male or his presence during early development. Phenotype matching, such as resemblance in facial features, may contribute, but Dr. Lieberman views this as a less reliable mechanism. Adopted siblings raised apart or half-siblings who did not co-reside may not develop sexual aversion, opening possibilities for genetic sexual attraction. Genetic sexual attraction refers to an observed phenomenon where relatives who meet later in life without early co-residence sometimes experience sexual attraction due to their genetic similarity and shared preferences. This is not evidence of a hidden incest desire, but suggests that genetically related individuals share traits which appeal to mate preferences. Furthermore, social and cultural norms strongly influence incest avoidance beyond biological predispositions, often overriding natural inclinations. The infamous Mark and Julie experiment is cited to illustrate people's moral dumbfounding about incest, where they label it wrong despite lacking concrete reasons, revealing deep societal taboos. Research shows females tend to have a stronger disgust response to incest-related scenarios than males, likely due to higher reproductive costs of poor mate choice, such as pregnancy and extended child-rearing. Females also generally possess lower thresholds for disgust across many domains, which may reflect evolutionary adaptations for protection and offspring survival. Males display more variation in their disgust reactions towards sibling incest. These differences tie into broader reproductive strategies and parental investment theory. The podcast touches on the paradox of incest-themed pornography being a popular online category despite strong incest aversion in reality. Dr. Lieberman posits that the appeal may arise from the safe, taboo-breaking fantasy element, as viewers know the performers are not actual siblings. The risky intrigue of violating social norms in a controlled environment is a potent driver for such consumption, akin to other taboo or edgy genres within adult entertainment. Moving beyond the nuclear family, the discussion highlights how aversions toward incest weaken with genetic distance. Cousin marriages remain common and culturally accepted in many parts of the world because the biological risks and social costs are substantially reduced compared to parent-offspring or sibling unions. It is suggested that co-residence and cultural reinforcement can modulate aversions even at the cousin level, though this area requires further research. Men, particularly in social settings, unconsciously assess hierarchies by evaluating formidability, physicality, and social status of others within a group. This cognitive mapping influences behaviors like attentiveness, deference, and dominance signaling. Nonverbal cues, seating arrangements, and speaking dynamics reveal underlying social structures without explicit communication. The brain integrates these cues rapidly to optimize social navigation and risk assessment. Transitioning to emotional expression, Dr. Lieberman explores the evolution of crying as a social signal. Tears communicate social value states, either signaling that someone is incurring excessive costs, e.g., distress, sadness, or expressing gratitude and eliciting cooperative responses. Crying functions as a costly, credible signal, mainly utilized by individuals with less power or leverage in social relationships to influence the behavior of others. The concept of leverage refers to the relative power within social interactions. Individuals with less leverage use tears as a tool to renegotiate costs and benefits, effectively saying, "You are imposing too high a cost on me." Conversely, tears can also express appreciation for support or kindness, reinforcing cooperative bonds. People often feel shame or vulnerability about crying because it reveals a momentary loss of leverage. Yet manipulation through crocodile tears can serve strategic social purposes. Women and children tend to cry more than men, reflecting differences in physical formidability and social roles. Men often suppress visible tears to maintain perceived strength or status, whereas women may combine anger with tears when outmatched in confrontations. Cultural expectations shape these behaviors, and individuals commonly hide their tears to avoid perceived weakness, even though tears are powerful social signals. Crying functions on multiple levels. It signals others in the social group while simultaneously helping the crier regulate internal emotional states. People cry both in social contexts and when alone, often simulating social scenarios in their minds. Empathy allows individuals to experience tears in response to stories or media, demonstrating how human brains blur lines between real and imagined emotional states. In the context of grief, tears express a need state visible to others and communicate loss and vulnerability. Since ancestral humans had minimal privacy, crying signaled distress to the social group, potentially eliciting support. While this is partly speculative, crying during grief appears to serve both communicative and emotional regulatory functions rooted in social living. Tears are a reliable, costly signal because they temporarily impair vision and vulnerability, making them difficult to fake convincingly. This cost underpins the authenticity of emotional tears and explains why tears intensify the perception of emotion in observers. The facial visibility and involuntary nature of crying increase its effectiveness as a social signal. Dr. Lieberman acknowledges many open questions remain regarding sensitive periods for kin recognition, the interplay of biological and cultural factors in incest avoidance, and the nuanced roles of crying across emotional states. She encourages further research using larger datasets and modern methodologies to better understand these complex psychological adaptations.